they at? I know them up here. Where are they at?
I did.
No, it must be just because it's new. But all that stuff should come down and drive. You know, all the stuff that we add to the documentation, everything for every meeting is in there.
Yep.
And then your bill should. Oh, there it is. It's just they keep.
All right, I'll call the April 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Scotland County Board of Commissioners to order. An invocation, and I failed to ask anybody beforehand, so we're going to go to our vice chair and ask him.
Would you bow your heads with me? Our God and our Father, we are so grateful for all of your blessings. We're thankful for all of the protection and all the things that you provide to each of us. As we shall meet this evening, we ask that you will lead and guide our decisions and all that shall be said and done, that it might be done pleasing in your sight and for the betterment of the citizens of our community. We give your name thanks and we give your name praise. For it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Pledge allegiance. Flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and I think there's a change to be made. Commissioner Gibson.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'd like to move item 9 up to item 4.
Item 4, item 2.
It can be 2, that's fine.
Okay, we'll just move it to 2.
Okay, that's cool.
All right. Need a motion for that.
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve it as amended.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving right along to the public forum. We have one person signed up. Is that right, Jason?
That's correct.
Ernestine McAllister. We do ask for anybody that speaks at the forum to keep their comment to a 3-minute limit, and I think Jason will keep that timed. And Miss McAllister, are you here? Oh, there you are. We won't start the time till you get up there.
Actually, won't start until I find my before I keep trying.
Oh yeah. If you hear him counting, you'll know what it is.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Swan and I are here to get an update or a status on the county water line expansion project for North Turnpike in Wagram. If you could maybe address any progress that have been made on procuring funds as it pertains to the overall costs and grants, and also the substantial increase in costs for the project. I think initially it was $750,000, and now we're hearing an estimate of somewhere around $9,000. $9 million, I'm sorry. Also, if we could get some feedback on some information that was sent to the county manager's office about a grant that may be available through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Division of Water Infrastructure. Is that something that can be used to offset the cost? And lastly, maybe speak to any timeline you might have as far as the project is concerned.
Well, I will tell you that that is a discussion tonight later on in the agenda. But we have talked about it some at our last meeting. And there was a grant that was looked at into, but there was some water testing that was required by the state to get that grant. And we did not have that well testing people's wells for different things. But we think we may have a way to do this without going with grants and all that stuff. So hopefully we still have the money allocated from the ARP funds. to that project. And then we have some money in the water fund, which we can only spend on water. So, but that is a discussion for later tonight.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, does anybody else want to address the board? Speak now, or forever hold your peace. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Offer motion for approval of consent agenda.
Have a motion?
Second.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so it is approved. We'll now move number 9, boards and committee appointments up with this item and turn it over to Vice Chair Gibson.
Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners, there are 2 appointments that we need to make tonight to the ABC Board. We originally received applications from Leon Butler, William Graves, Zachary Laminack, and Doretha Swan. This evening, Ms. Swan withdrew her application, which leaves us with 3 names for 2 seats. I want to recommend for that particular board, Mr. Leon Butler and Mr. William Graves.
Second that motion.
I want to add a comment with the William Graves. The
There's 2
general
William
manager is William Graves,
This
but
is
that's
not him.
not the same William Graves.
And
So
there is no relation.
there is no relation. He
Right.
didn't know there was another one. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that carries.
Second is our present chairperson of the Board of E&R has reached their term limit. And so we need to appoint a chair of that board. And I'd like to offer a motion that Mr. Henry Byrd become chair of the Board of E&R.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have 2 seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. And Jason, you'll notify, well, Mr. Butler's here and and then you'll notify Mr. Graves on his appointment. Good enough. All right, then we'll move on to the next thing was the Scotland County Rescue Squad. David is here because I saw him. There he is.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is David Leviner. I'm the rescue chief for Scotland County Rescue Squad. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Scotland County Search and Rescue organization, which is comprised of all emergency services agencies in Scotland County. I'm approaching you tonight asking to help us meet a need for a piece of equipment that we need for our search and rescue team. We're looking to secure funding for $25,000 to purchase an enclosed trailer to be able to store and transport our equipment both inside and outside of our county for requests for searchings for missing persons. As you see in your packet, it was included. Our search team was founded in 2022 because of an identified need to provide qualified and trained searchers for missing persons in Scotland County and surrounding areas. In 2022, we had 7 searches in Scotland County alone, 1 in Richmond County. When I typed this and sent this over to you guys, in 2023, we'd had 3 searches already and a request for 2 additional outside of the county. Since typing that, we had 1 additional one this past weekend in Richmond County as a request for out-of-county resource for a missing person. Those requests for out-of-county searches, we have not been able to fill and meet the need for other counties asking for our assistance, primarily because we don't have a means to transport people and stuff, the tools that we need to work with to be able to return the favor for many of the counties that have provided service to us. In our most recent search, we received support from 59 agencies out of 4 different states. Over 400 people came and responded to our request for help. A little over 4,000 man hours was utilized in searching for Miss Covington at an estimated cost of over $150,000. And much of that expense was bore by the outside agencies that came to our county. So we simply don't have the resources, the funding, the people to be able to support that type of search. And we owe them a great debt of gratitude for coming to be able to help us. And that was not the first time that that's happened. And unfortunately, I don't think it'll be the last time. As I stated, our search team is comprised of all emergency service agencies. We have 3 to 5 members from rescue, EMS, fire, communications, emergency management, sheriff, and our local police department. We have a total of 31 members. Each of our members have to go through about 60 hours of training yearly as a minimum. And then we participate in a quarterly training event each quarter to be able to practice and hone our skills as a group, if you will. This enclosed trailer that we're seeking will allow the Scotland Search and Rescue Team the ability to secure all of our SAR equipment in a ready state with the resources that we need to be deployable both inside and outside of the county. As it currently stands, those things are kind of piecemeal and take some extra time for us to be able to get up and operational, if you will. This trailer will provide a base of operation that will support 24-hour operations. It includes rest and rehab, area meal preparations, communication support, among other purposes. This trailer will be utilized by all agencies who comprise the Scotland Search and Rescue Team. It would be housed and maintained by the Scotland County Rescue Squad. We have secured some funding to go toward this project. We originally received a $35,000 grant from the North Carolina Office of State Fire Marshal. We have spent some of that money to purchase our side-by-side ATV, and we have about $10,000 remaining to go toward this purpose and be able to fund our search and rescue team. Your support added to our grant funding will allow us to purchase that trailer that can meet the needs that we have today and for the future. Additionally, we can provide any ancillary items that are needed with that trailer. If you're unable to provide that support immediately, we do have a contingency and have placed it into our upcoming 23-24 budget request to be able to try to do that. But that delay would severely limit our team from being able to deploy properly to support search requests until we have that resource and that piece of equipment. So again, your support will ensure that our responders can be better prepared to respond to requests for assistance to our county, state, and surrounding areas. This resource will allow Scotland County to return the support that we have received on many occasions from outside agencies. And I'd like to thank you for your consideration and support of our emergency services here in the county. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
How big of a trailer is this?
So I'm looking for a 20 to 22 foot enclosed trailer. I don't want something larger than what we can maneuver with and be able to pull that type thing, but I need something large enough to be able to house the equipment that we need.
It can be used as a command post.
So I guess it could technically be used as that. As you guys are aware, emergency management, with your help and other agencies, was able to secure a command post for us. So that is able to pair with what we do. We could use that on a short-term basis for a command post, but in the need that we had a long-term event, we could pair the existing trailer we have with this one, which is more designed for equipment transportation, equipment storage, kind of a 24-hour base of operation for rest, rehab, meals, you know, just a place to put our stuff, if you will.
Mr. Patterson, are these ARP funds available for a project like this?
This would be an eligible expense because it is public safety.
I'll make a motion.
They want to ask you one more question. If you had a water rescue, do you have facility? Do you have the equipment necessary to take care of something on a lake or a
Yes, sir.
river?
So we do have water rescue equipment available for the rescue squad. Most of that is trailerized equipment for boats and those type things. This would be able to help us with that. So for example, if we have members that are responding, they have to change into wetsuits or dry suits, both male or female. We currently don't have the ability to do that. It's, you know, not out in the general public. In times past, we've basically had to string up tarps and create a place to safely change. So this piece of equipment would help with that purpose as well.
Do you have the wetsuits?
Yes, sir, we do.
What all types of equipment would you have?
So our ATV is our main thing that we would have in it. So we would like to be able to put a type of cot, if you will, in there that stays up and folded out of the way during transport. But once we remove our equipment, we could have some cots and places to be able to sit, sleep, if you will. We'd like to do some minor things like a hot plate, a coffee maker, a refrigerator. We'd like to do a small radio station inside of it. Again, not to take the place of our mobile command post, but a basic radio operation, a place to put a computer printer, be able to put maps on the wall that we need to use for searches. Kind of, stuff that fits our search realm, if you will.
How tall is it?
So we would have to have, because of our ATV, we have to have something that's at least 7.5 feet in height. So it requires a little taller trailer than standard because of the ATV or UTV that's in there. So it requires a little more than a standard height.
Where are you gonna store it? Where are you gonna store the trailer?
So our current plan is to be able to store at the fire station. So there is discussion, and this has not been formalized, but as the North Fire Station is built, it is at least in discussion to be able to turn the North Fire Station over to the rescue squad. If that takes place, that was where we would store it when that quote becomes the rescue squad.
Now, you said you had other grants. You had other, is that to buy the truck to pull it with, or?
So
have
the
you got a
current
truck to pull it with, or?
The current grant that we had was a one-time grant from the Office of State Fire Marshal. It was $35,000, and it really didn't have any tags what it was designed for. So we got to choose how to spend it. We spent the first 25 of it on the side-by-side. We decided to earmark the remaining 10 for the purchase of the trailer. I do not have a vehicle to pull that with at the moment. That is in my next budget request for next year. That is something that is a continuing need that we would have. And currently, if we receive this trailer, we would have to rely on our volunteer members to be able to transport this, or maybe one of the QRVs from EMS or something like that.
Would you use that truck for other things besides pulling? that
Certainly. Yes, sir. Yes, we could. We plan to be able to use that truck for emergency response, for transport back and forth to schools, to be able to be dedicated for use as this trailer, so it would be a multi-purpose vehicle.
So how much would you need for the truck and the trailer?
So in the proposed upcoming budget, I have 80,000 allotted for both the truck and a trailer. So that puts me in the 55 to 60,000 range for a truck if you guys are able to fund the trailer.
How much for the truck?
That puts me in the 55 to 60 range for a truck.
That's a
If you
state
guys,
contract rate.
So you're talking about around 85, 80 for the truck and the trailer?
so I've put 80 in the proposed budget, plus or minus, because we had the 10,000 to go along with that, the trailer and the truck. So that puts me at 90 total. You guys, if you were able to fund 25, I'm gonna put 10 with it, makes it 35 for the trailer, all the equipment, lettering and everything that goes with it. The balance then would go toward the truck. So I'm guessing in that 55 to 60 mark. I apologize. I was not prepared for the truck question tonight, but it would definitely be a help to us if you could support that as well. But I don't want to ask for more than what I can.
I think you could buy that truck pretty hefty through the state contract, can't you? And it'd be a little bit cheap,
It very well may be. And keep in mind, most of the trucks, and I might defer to Robert Sampson on this, the truck itself, and then the lettering, the lights, you generally a camper shell, the slide that goes with it, those things add to that. And they would have more experience than I do. But
Well, I don't see the trailer being much good without the truck.
Well, somebody could pull it. I mean, even if they use the QRV to pull it.
Yeah, but if he's gonna come back and ask for it.
Anything that goes into a budget is also supported by, the rescue squad budget is supported equally by the city and the county. So that those costs are split.
So that'd be a
Mr.
split cost.
That's to be considered.
Mr. Fazell, I want to make sure I understand, were you asking, is this something that we could request as a part of the ARP funding
Yeah.
or?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. I don't want to overextend my request to you guys, but it would certainly be appreciative that, if it is ARP funding and it doesn't come back to the tax base for the city or the county, it would be much appreciated. So
We need further discussion on the truck.
It sounds like, I think his request is appropriate. I would, if the truck is more likely to be funded out of joint payment from the city and the county, I think we let that come in through his regular budget and go ahead and move forward with the purchase of the trailer.
I agree.
If-
That's fine.
Is that a motion?
I was just looking at, in emergencies, if you need a trailer, if you're looking for somebody to pull the trailer, And if we're gonna allocate the money to it anyway,
See, if we do it now, we have to pay for the whole thing.
Right.
If we wait a couple more months, we and the city pay for it together.
okay.
In
Well,
the
I'm sure
meantime,
there'd
we
be a
use EMS.
standard operating procedure if needed. X person would respond to get the trailer.
So that is our typical response. I would agree that there is a delay. It's not a significant delay. As always with volunteers, we are 100% at the mercy of, people's time and availability. We have balanced that very well through the years, but being 100% volunteer, there is some deficiency that is there in time and delay for waiting and confirming that a piece of equipment is en route. I think I would be ill-advised to advise you guys, we can respond immediately and take care of this, Johnny on the spot as a volunteer versus having a dedicated piece of equipment. But as I don't want to overextend my request to you guys. So if you offer it, I would graciously take it, but I don't want to overextend myself.
Even with that, he still has to have a volunteer get there, but also with it, if this is the equipment, Laurinburg Fire Department, EMS both have the potential
Pull it.
to pull it.
Well, it's like I said, even if you have the truck sitting there, you still got to wait on a volunteer to pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, I'll second the motion you made.
Okay, motion in a second. All right, any more discussion? This is 25,000 from the ARP funding. Am I right?
That's correct.
I want to correct. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, but don't walk off.
Okay.
So I want to bring up something real quick to get it addressed so we know where we're going.
Okay.
So for the folks that weren't on the board last year, we approved a new truck to be purchased for Rescue Squad, which that funding is allocated and whatnot. There's been a delay in that truck. That was supposed to be January, then it was supposed to be March 31st, then now it's been told another 30 days out. The only reason I'm bringing it up, and this might be something Ed has to look at, is the discussion was originally made that the old truck would be donated to Richmond County so they could get their rescue squad up and running. Well, Richmond County has began to call me and ask, what's going on with the truck? And I didn't know until tonight about the delays and that thing. I guess I'm asking, is that possible that if we surplus it to them?
Do we still have use for that old truck?
Not once the new truck's available.
Not once the new one's here.
We don't have any.
Do we, is the old truck still functional? Are we still using it?
They're using it now, right?
It is still currently in
No, I'm
service,
saying once the new truck gets here. Yeah. I'm saying once we're done with that truck, that we're going to give it to Richmond. But I mean, they're just kind of on the same wake button we are on because
That's correct. We're kind of, we're at the mercy of manufacturing process. So the department that we're purchasing the truck from, their new truck is in. They had some problems with it that they're waiting on parts. Supply chain is causing them problems. And so I reached out about this morning. It has been delayed again to the end of April. And I'm putting a great deal of pressure on them to move that on because I don't want to lose funding that's already allocated to that. But so we anticipate this sometime in the end of April. And then I anticipate it would take us a couple months to get our new truck in service for both equipment, training, those type things. And then this would put the surplus truck on the market.
I just wanted to address that tonight because it's been delayed now. It's going to be coming up on a year. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So
So I think we originally went and met with them in about August. They told us that it would be in the January timeframe, but it was all the supply chain stuff that's going on. I kind of understand where they are, but I'm equally frustrated too. So
thank you.
thank you.
Anybody got anything? Okay.
I appreciate all the support.
About that was a very well-written request.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. April Sneed, DSS. There she is.
Good evening. April is a busy month for the Department of Social Services. I have two proclamations, both for the month of April, clearly. First, the first proclamation is because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. It is nationally. And so I wanted to make sure you knew we have 4 of our 5 DSS board members are here, and a majority of our social work staff are here basically on this whole side of the room is somebody related to DSS and your social work staff. So we thank them for what they do. Child Protective Services isn't an easy job, and it's certainly not a job for everybody. But these people come every day and they do that. And so I'm going to read this proclamation and hope that you adopt it. So, the County of Scotland makes a proclamation in recognition of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, whereas children are vital to our state and county's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and the future quality of life of a community. And whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human services agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Scotland County Board of Commissioners that April 2023 is Child Abuse Prevention Month in Scotland County, and urge all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. Proclaimed this third day of April 2023.
I move the board adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Proclamation carried.
And before I leave Child Abuse Prevention Month, tomorrow we are having a ceremony, I guess you'd say, right in front of the Department of Social Services at 3:00. And you should have all got an invitation letter and along with a lot of other community members. So we would appreciate very much your support. April is also Second Chance Month. And so you say, what is Second Chance Month? Well, that coincides with our Scotland County Reentry Program. And so we also have some executive committee members here from our reentry program right here on the front row. And so we appreciate what they do as well for our reentry program and to continue to see that grow. That's relatively new to Scotland County, but we are seeing it grow. So I'm going to read that proclamation. So County of Scotland proclaims in recognition of April as Second Chance Month. Whereas a great majority of the incarcerated individuals in North Carolina will eventually return to communities. And whereas formerly incarcerated individuals face many hurdles upon their release in securing employment, housing, transportation, and health care. And whereas local, state, and federal leaders recognize these barriers and continue to develop programs and policies to make it easier for these individuals to live healthy as well as successful lives. And whereas Scotland County's Reentry Council and reentry professionals are identifying ways to best serve and assist the formerly incarcerated with their transition. And whereas providing resources for the formerly incarcerated is a community-wide effort among the Reentry Council, reentry professionals, faith-based organizations, volunteers, and the state of North Carolina. And whereas all these efforts by policymakers, reentry professionals, and volunteers help to reduce the stigma of incarceration and provide justice-involved people with increased opportunities and a better chance of a successful reentry to the community. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the Scotland County Board of Commissioners that April be proclaimed as Second Chance Month in Scotland County, proclaimed this third day of April 2023.
Offer motion that we accept the proclamation.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you,
And
ma'am.
in true form, I'll make one more announcement. The reentry program is having our reentry day on April 27th, and that will be in, the best way I can describe that is the parking lot of probation and parole. We're going to block that off and have a lot of vendors and just information to educate the community and bring awareness to the
What was
reentry
the date?
program.
April.
27th, and that'll be from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll now turn to County Attorney Mr. Johnson on his legal opinions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At an earlier board meeting, the board had directed me to provide some legal counsel regarding two funding requests. The first request is for funds for playground equipment, provide recreational opportunities to an underserved area. This would be in the Laurinburg Housing Authority. I was contacted last week and was informed that the Housing Authority had requested that if the board funds this request to whatever extent it chooses, that the funds be directed to the Housing Authority. And there are a number of reasons for that. The Housing Authority owns the land upon which the equipment will be placed. So there's no necessity for a lease or any separate insurance if there was a separate party that was running that 100% of the funds would go to the equipment and they would have management in-house. Some of the board members, in fact, probably a lot of the board members were not really active at the time this happened, but decades ago, the county and the city merged their Parks and Recreation departments so that the city no longer had one. And the county has provided recreational opportunities since that time, both within the municipalities and in areas outside of the corporate limits of municipalities. The county clearly has the legal authority to fund this type of project if it chooses to. And the amount to which you fund it or whether you fund it is in the discretion of the board. So that's the background on the first request. You want me to wait on the second?
Well, so you're saying this one, but through the Laurinburg Housing Authority?
Well, the request has come, given that it's their property,
Right.
that the equipment would be placed on. They made the request that if the board does any funding, that the funds go to the Housing Authority. And then, I mean, it may be that there's a need to have additional funds depending on what, if anything, what the board agrees to. Yeah, or something.
Commissioner Gibson, you have something to share?
I'm sorry, this young lady on the front row, I think she had come before us earlier and she had something she wanted to say in regard to this, and she didn't know how to do it. So I don't know anything other than just to tell us who you are, please.
I'm Demetrius Rainer.
Come up here so they can hear online.
Demetrius Rainer with Renew Life. And yes, I came before this body several times about the property behind Horn Store, that Hall Street, Stewartsville area, asking for funding for a playground. And at the time, after I came to you, I also had a meeting with the Housing Authority, and the board ultimately approved Renew to use that land for a playground. As Attorney Johnston just mentioned, there was an emergency call meeting that was had on Thursday that I found out about, where they came up with whatever they came up with. I don't want to speak out of turn because I asked for the minutes, but the minutes weren't complete. I wanted the minutes of the meeting when I came before them and the board voted, and I want to see the minutes of what happened on this call meeting that was called on Thursday. Because as I stated, Renew was given permission to use that property by the Housing Authority. So I'm asking the board tonight, until we can get this straightened out and go over their procedure or policy or about this meeting, emergency call meeting they had, that this would be deferred and let us come back in a month or two after all this confusion has been cleared up, because it's very confusing to me, because I came before you guys asking for the funding, and the board voted to give me permission to use the land. So I just say the board just not vote on anything tonight, to give me a chance to do my due diligence and come back before the board with some additional information that I don't have in front of me tonight.
Let me ask this question. Who owns the land?
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority owns the land.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I'm.
Okay.
We'll just put it off.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank y'all. That's it.
I think our conversation had to do with the legality of us making funds available, period.
Mm.
I don't think we were perhaps even going to make that decision tonight, one way or the other. But we were just trying to decide whether it was appropriate for us to do that.
I think my legal opinion related to housing authority.
Right.
Doing it through housing.
Right.
That's his recommendation legally.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, that's null and void. We can leave it alone.
Until she comes back.
Did you come back?
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen, for placing me on the agenda, and I appreciate everything.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I apologize for breaking protocol. I didn't know how to do it differently.
I did not attend that meeting. I just was told by the attorney for that board, that's what they passed. I haven't seen minutes either. The second request before the board was from a renewed request from 'Tis the Season, and I believe we at least on one occasion had addressed a request prior to this time from 'Tis the Season, but this project, as I understand it, is focused on the Christmas season, which obviously is a celebration of the birth of Christ. According to the information that I had retained from presentations made by the 'Tis the Season group, that there are a number, and I think they said 25 churches, among others, would participate in these activities and support the activities as well. Activities included, among other things, a drive-through nativity scene. This is a project which I believe many of us would think would be quite positive and constructive. And so the issue really does not come down to the merits of the project. That's really not determinative of whether you have the legal authority. The project, for you to have legal authority, must be for a public purpose, and you must have legal authority to fund it. The prior request, a Parks and Recreation funding, is obviously one that you have clear legal authority for. We've done that for decades. If you're going to do the funding for the 'Tis the Season project, to me, in essence, you will be dissolving the separation of the church and state. And so I hesitate, as I did before, when this matter came up at a previous meeting, I hesitate to advise the board that it has authority to fund this project. I think there could be debate about to what degree these activities have religious connotations. I think there may be a debate about to what degree that would be, but I don't think there's any debate that there is some. And so I think if the funding was challenged, it would be difficult to argue that we have not in some way supported a religion. It happens to be a religion I'm a member of, and I'm sorry to give you advice that I would prefer not to have to give. But the other thing I would point out is that if you grant funding for this request, you could be setting a precedent for future requests from various religions for funding things that would be supportive of other religions as well. So that's my advice as to that particular request, which is the same as it was a year or two ago.
Anybody got anything? Any discussion? That both says no on your face.
I mean, guys, our hands and this.
Anything? Not for me. So no motion, no action. So there's that issue. All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You're welcome.
We'll move now to the 911 communication. I think that's right. That's where we are. Yeah. Samantha, there she comes.
Good evening. So there's actually two things that I'm bringing before you tonight. The first one is a proclamation for National Telecommunicator Week. This is something that we've done for the past several years. But National Telecommunicator Week is the second full week of April each year. And it's sponsored by the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials International and celebrated annually. And it honors thousands of men and women who respond to emergency calls, dispatch emergency professionals and equipment, and render life-saving assistance to the citizens of the United States and in Scotland County. So we're asking for you to adopt a proclamation to support National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, which this year will be April 9th through the 15th. And I will read the proclamation for you. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Scotland County Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Scotland County Emergency Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Commissioners of Scotland County declare the week of April 9th through the 15th, 2023 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Scotland County in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe.
Offer motion that we accept the proclamation in support of National Telecommunicator Week.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
We just had this.
Mm-mm.
It has been a year since we did this.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I thought the same thing when I saw it. Time flies. But,
No discussion. Sorry.
no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, proclamation carries. All right, I think you have.
All right, so the second item, I wanted to bring to your attention a commendation that was received for several of our telecommunicators and assistant director from an incident that occurred on Thursday, March 23rd. So at approximately 4:50 p.m., the North Carolina 911 ESInet began experiencing 911 call routing degradation. For a number of 911 centers across the state, it was not just in Scotland County. When we identified the issue, we were actually receiving a call from a citizen in Edgecombe County. We received calls during the 2-hour period that this was occurring. We received calls from all over the state, a large number of them being from Durham. But we were able to process those calls and relay that information back to the communication center there, so that there obviously was a small delay in getting help to those citizens, but there are no significant delays that we're aware of. We also, during that time, while some test calls were made, some of our calls were going to Madison County at the very west of our state. And there were several other counties that were receiving calls from Scotland County. During that time, like I said, we were able to process a number of calls from across the state and get that information back to those 911 centers via the North Carolina statewide call talk group on the Viper radio system. So after that incident occurred, I received an email from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Emergency Management Communications Division, and I would like to read that to you. So on the evening of March 23rd, the North Carolina ESInet 911 network encountered a degradation and began routing 911 calls abnormally, resulting in emergency calls for service being routed to public safety answering points, or PSAPs, around the central and eastern regions of the state. As a result, communication centers received calls for assistance that were not in their county for a period of an hour and a half. The affected emergency communication centers quickly recognized the issue and implemented a workaround process to ensure that help was still sent to the citizens requesting it in a timely and effective manner. The use of Viper's statewide call was effective and innovative, allowing all communication centers to communicate with one another almost seamlessly. Please allow this letter to serve as a formal acknowledgement of your exceptional work on the evening in question. Your telecommunicators acted in dynamic conditions to ensure all calls received in your center were processed professionally, maintaining the high standards of service that North Carolinians have come to expect from the 911 industry. Their ability to recognize the degradation, enact a plan, and continue to provide exceptional service is to be commended. Thank you for your hard work. North Carolina Emergency Management Communications is grateful for your service and actions to maintain emergency communication in North Carolina. So the staff that was working that day was not able to be here tonight, with the exception of our Assistant Director, Jonathan Lemond. I was out of town, so he was actually the one spearheading that incident, which is one we've never experienced before. But we are extremely proud of our staff for how they acted during that period of time. Does anyone have any questions?
This is more of a curiosity question. So if a call for Scotland County came in and went to Madison County or wherever it went, I know those calls are recorded.
Mhm.
And if that call was received there, do you have a copy of if it was one of those that they had to go back and listen to, where's that held at now? Is that being held there? Or?
It should have been held there.
Okay.
How did we in Scotland County dispatch? How did the 911 telecommunicator in Madison County dispatch something in Scotland County?
They were able to relay the information of the call via a statewide radio channel to
Back
us.
to you.
To
So the
us, for
only
us
delay
to
was the call
dispatch.
going there and them getting it back to you.
That's correct.
Okay. How long did this last?
Approximately 2 hours. Yeah.
Say to your staff that we are appreciative of their quick response. And I think it shows that our investment in those Viper radios were worthwhile.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Unless the Viper radios cost it.
No, this is 911
No, that was
system,
911.
right?
Yeah, this is 911.
Telephone.
We
Telephone.
had a
system.
backup plan.
Yeah.
There was a backup. Yeah.
And while we do have a backup plan, this was not something that was part of our backup plan. So this was totally on the fly.
This
Yeah.
was not supposed to happen, right?
No. No.
Good job.
That's the things that always happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot. Thank you. Thank everybody
Jonathan.
there. All right, Kevin Patterson with the East Lawrence
Okay.
Group.
I've added a sheet at each of your spots. This is a letter we received from the United Steelworkers. This is the employee union at Pilkington, NSG, and now.
Is that right there where the old Waverly Mill is? Is that right this side of it? Is that where you're
Yes, sir.
talking about?
Well, it's the East Lawrenceburg Town Hall
Right across from the softball field at the old school.
and the two, and the vacant parcel at the end of the street on this side. They have put in a request for $25,000, a bid for $25,000 for the building and the two vacant parcels.
Have we had, and I can't remember the name of the pastor, but
Tyson.
Richard Tyson had come, and at one time, I think they were interested in this.
They're interested, or they've put in a bid and was accepted on the work lot,
Work lot.
which was where their
Church.
Yeah.
Are these, and I haven't read the letter, but are they looking, are these people they buy, are they going to make it available to the community for certain things? Or is it,
I did not go into that conversation with them.
Well,
Do we know what the property's worth? What it's valued at?
if you
We've not had
remember,
an appraisal on it. And since it was owned by local government, it was not been part of tax appraisals.
if you remember, Reverend Tyson's part of his was what the stuff that was in the building. and making that available to the community. And Kevin and I and Leon and somebody else went out there that day and went through that building, Jason, to see what was in there that you could use for the historical part of East Laurinburg. Bottom line is the historic museum doesn't have anywhere to put that stuff. I mean, there's a lot. There's one room, it's as big as that corner room back there. There's nothing but trophies in it, back to the 50s or whatever it is. But so my concern would be, we don't want to throw that stuff away, and there's all kind of other stuff in that other room. What would we do with that? You know, somebody would have to take charge or go through that. And there's not room out at the museum to put it at. Maybe a little bit, but very little.
Well, if we,
Have anyone approached church community service knowing it's part of East Laurinburg, possibly dedicate a room to some of the history of East Laurinburg?
No, nobody's done anything since we went out there and looked that day. And just to be on the fairness side, I know Partners in Ministry was interested in that building at one time too. Now, they didn't ever discuss a number, but if there was a number,
I think
may
they
have
wanted us to give us the bill.
well, right,
Give them
and
the
that might have been the case. But
And I don't have any issue with these people buying it, but if they're going to buy it and use it just for their purpose, if there's somebody in the community that wants to buy it, or that building can be used as a place for the community to gather, I would hate to see us not investigate that opportunity.
I know American Legion Post 50. 181. Oh, I'm sorry. Has also expressed interest on that, but they've had some delays in putting a bid together.
Go ahead, Ms. Alford.
Kevin, what is our procedure for selling property? Don't we have to make it known to the public that we want to sell it? Because
well,
we're getting
I think
bids
if we
in.
accepted this, correct me if I'm wrong, we'd have to advertise it and wait for somebody else to come along and outbid it, or
Yes.
10 days or whatever. Yeah, upset the bid. So it wouldn't necessarily, but I mean, I'm not making that motion. I'm saying that's what the procedure would be.
And then the board could not officially accept the proposal until after the 10 days run. And if there's no upset bid, then the board could accept it after that. So at the work session or at the May meeting, at that point, we could accept it.
When someone put in a bid such as this, can they come back and bid higher?
Yeah.
Yes, they
If
have
the
to
bid has
exceed
been
the bid by
upset.
5%.
But we do have post 181 who's showing interest in the building.
Well, and I don't want to get in a bidding war. I don't mean that, but if the church would be interested in buying it and using it as a community resource place, sometimes it takes organizations and churches a little time to get their boards together to make a decision. So I think I'm at this point not in favor of necessarily accepting this bid.
Well, my understanding when they came, they only met there like what, twice a year or something like that.
I think they said they meet monthly.
Once a month.
They were the only regular renters of that building, but they haven't rented it since we owned it. have
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they came and
Almost
asked to use it. I mean,
Okay.
and-
I knew they had, but I
Are they
didn't know
still
they
paying
had
rent
done
on it every month?
yeah.
Yes.
Even now?
To us.
Yes.
I didn't know they had actually done.
They may be a perfectly good group of people to buy, especially if they're going to buy it and would rent it out to other folks. But I think before we'd accepted that, we should maybe give other people a chance to get themselves ready to.
Well, maybe 181 would rent this building to them just like we rent it.
Absolutely.
I'm just throwing that out there, but
I guess I have a
They
question.
partner with
or they may partner with
Do
them.
we don't want to keep the building. We want to get rid of it.
We've had it for how long and hadn't done anything with it, so and
I-
don't see anything happening with it. But
Well, we rent it out to them for $100 a month. Can we rent it out to them for $100 a month too?
or they buy it and rent it to the place for $100 a month. I'm just throwing ideas.
I think, yeah.
Before we sell something for $25,000, I like to know what it's
I'd
worth.
rather sell it to somebody and let them rent it to somebody else for $100 a month. I think that would be my preference.
Yeah, but I still like to know what it's worth. I mean,
Yeah, well,
maybe
that's-
selling a $200,000 piece of property for $25,000.
I think you're
I think
absolutely
that
right.
corner lot is worth more than that building's worth.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I like to know what it's worth before we sell it for $25,000.
I think we were I've been in that building, and if I remember, it's not in terrible
It's
shape.
not a bad shape.
No, it's not.
No, I mean,
I
it
think
could use
I
a cleaning
I make the motion, we table this conversation.
and get some more.
Get some more information. Maybe, I mean, have somebody at least go look at it and give us an estimate of what they think it might be worth.
I can have
Maybe
Second.
do
I
second that. Maybe do a drive-by appraisal on it or something, not a full out.
We can ask the tax office to give us.
Meantime, y'all looking at property, renting it as well.
Just contact county manager. Just contact county manager.
10. Okay, you got a motion in a second.
So you did make a motion for that, okay, and Bo was the second on that. All right, so let's table this until a future date. All in favor? I'm sorry. Any opposed? All right, thank you. And we'll move on to Ms. Deaver from the Health Department.
So April is a busy month for a lot of people, as I see my counterparts brought their proclamations tonight. But I want to recognize, beginning today and running through April the 9th, is National Public Health Week. Public health promotes and protects the health of people in the communities where we live, learn, work, and play. While a doctor may treat people who are sick, those in public health strive to prevent people from getting sick or injured in the first place. I would like to recognize the 40-plus employees of Scotland County Health Department who serve our community daily. During COVID, public health was brought to the forefront, but my staff does much more than testing and keeping track of disease rates. Many do not know, but the health departments also offer soil and water testing, as well as restaurant and pool inspections that keep the public safe. So I just wanted to recognize them tonight. The second thing I wanted to talk about tonight is the county health rankings that were released last week. County rankings help us to better understand the many factors that impact our health. Scotland County unfortunately ranked 98 out of 100 in the least healthy county in North Carolina. Health outcomes represent how healthy a county is right now in terms of length of life, but also the quality of life as well. Health factors represents those things we can modify to improve our health outcomes. Currently, the county's health outcomes are within the lowest percentile, being 0 to 25%. An estimated 21% of the county's residents report being in poor or fair health, compared to 14% at the state level. Scotland County's rankings reflect poor health factors such as adult obesity, smoking, lack of food securities, high teen pregnancy, and high STI rates. These poor health factors lead to poor health outcomes. However, we can change the health ranking trajectory with all community partners working together to understand the underlying causes and invest our resources where they are best needed. In order to have better health outcomes, we must have healthier behaviors. Good nutrition, exercise, and good habits are a start towards healthier behaviors. Does anybody have any questions about our health rankings?
I'm a little confused on this report, but I can ask that later. I'll send you something and ask you that. It's just, I don't understand the numbers, but anyway. I don't want to start that now because we'll be here all night.
Where were we last year? This year was 98 out of 100. Where were we last year?
Pretty much in the same spot.
Are we looking at?
The things that we did improve in was more ladies were receiving mammograms, and alcohol impaired driving deaths dropped from 40% in 2018 down to 30% in 2022. So we are coming down in that aspect, but we're, still having the areas of concerns are adult smoking, adult obesity, food environment index, physical inactivity, STIs, and high teen births.
And what I heard you say, I think, just before you ended was, in order for us to improve on this, we need to do something
and improve our healthy behaviors.
That sounded like a real short answer. Do you have a more complete recommendation as to what you would think that we can do?
Eat healthier, exercise.
Let me ask you a different question. What do you think this board can do to make a difference, if anything?
He's leading.
No, because when I read those statistics today, that was my thought. You know, I'm not sure I can do anything about
Smoking, how you stop?
smoking and some of these other
We
things.
could put more resources towards tobacco cessation. I did have a lady that I was hoping that could come tonight to speak, but she couldn't. The Board of Health has adopted a new tobacco policy based on managed care. No one can smoke in the parking lot of the health department or in their car or on the grounds because it affects our managed care Medicaid funding. And I was hoping the lady could come tonight and do a presentation for the board to maybe make all county properties smoke-free.
That's what I was looking for. This is just one location.
Mhm.
So what are we doing countywide to try to curb the numbers?
Right.
And Commissioner Gibson, I think those are some of the things in my mind that we can do as a board to help make that effect. When that young lady came and spoke to our Board of Health, her recommendation was that we consider as a board doing the no smoking policy on all county property that we own, because doing it at the health department is fine, but you can come right around the corner to the DSS and, you know.
Well, I guess that would be my question of you, is perhaps a recommendation to us as to what we could do to address any of those. And now there were a lot of different things in your report, and some of them I think we could do something about it, but I think some of them I'm not sure what we would do about.
Mhm.
But if you have an idea as to what you may have seen in other counties or what other people are doing, I think I would like to hear that.
Yes, that's one thing, is the tobacco cessation and no smoking on county properties.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
you finished?
Yes, sir.
I was thinking 501c3s, they come to us and ask for funds, sometimes $25, $30, $40, $50,000. And I was thinking, and sometimes they're talking about recreation, which is good. That's one of our issues. But we need to, in my opinion, this board can do something with by tying the money to address some of the real issues we have. If, for example, if I had a 501c3 and I wanted $50,000, then it should be given on the condition, in my opinion, that that the 501c3, you would address how you want it to do some of these issues as relate to the teen pregnancy. We almost number one, and some of the other issues. If the folk would address these issues along with recreation, we'd be much better off. But I haven't heard anybody yet, including the board, and we addressed the gyms and playgrounds, but we haven't said one word about the issues that are really affecting us. So what I think that's something we could do. I just add that component to when we're giving out the money.
If that's the case, we need to allocate more money towards parenting.
That's what, man?
Allocate more money towards parenting. Not necessarily the board can curb some of those deficiencies. Some of it starts at the home. How do we reach the home through some of our funds? I get some of the 501c3, whatever, they come to nonprofits. But if we're talking about doing anything to curb some of these numbers and not window dressing, we need to put programs out there to help these young folks to be better parents, better youth, better young adults. That's how you attack those problems. It's just my opinion. I'm sorry.
I would appreciate anything that you and your board can come up with as a recommendation to us
Okay,
and be broad in your thinking.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to the I.E. Johnson report and the DSS board letter.
Okay, with this, went by and took some pictures in Johnson last week. I actually uploaded those into the drive folder today. But when I walked in there and saw some of the progress, and it's still, because of the painting and everything, but the gym floor is in, the bathrooms have been remodeled, we don't have any utilities any fixtures being set yet, but those aspects are being roughed in, ceilings are in place, and the front lobby is, for the gym area, is now visibly in shape. But right now it is still currently on task for being completed by the end of June. I've not received any requests for additional time as of yet. So that is still on project.
But the change in the floor coloring was done, right?
Yes.
The one that, okay.
Yes. And that's the striping.
Right.
And the bleachers will also be a burgundy color, which would go back to match some of the original school colors. And those had not come in yet, so that's should not be an issue. But
go on to that letter.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the letter at our last meeting from the DSS board, and we just wanted to put it on there tonight for discussion. I don't think we're going to make an action tonight, but you never know. But to see what people's thoughts were on that right now.
Mr. Chairman, don't we need to table that to July, to our session in July?
After for the budget, you mean?
Yeah. Don't we need to do that?
You need to know on this budget though, right?
Well, this would be a capital project budget, so it's not necessarily needs to go. That project is not bound to the fiscal year.
Right. But we're not starting that project now anyway.
No.
So
We are not we're not looking to go out to bid on the next phase of construction anytime soon. So that we can just pause until a formal plan or concept on the next phase is decided.
That doesn't change.
Are we ready for that yet? I mean, are we even ready to talk about that yet? Because we don't even know if we got the money for that.
Right. Well, but that doesn't change the outside stuff we're doing, like that parking lot.
Right. The parking lot, we can go ahead, at least the parking lot for the gym area.
Right.
That can go ahead and be done. We can probably also go ahead and look at doing renovations in the library. Those are going to be primarily cosmetic. That can be done because that can be turned into a community space.
I want a lot to be done in there.
But it just would not include any additional construction demolition inside of the rest of the building.
Does anybody else want to talk about that letter right now? Or we just.
Well, I will say I'm a little bit confused. If I remember, I don't have a copy of the letter in front of me, so I apologize for that. But I know their concern, you're talking about the letter from the board of the DSS, and their concern was about splitting their staff. I think what we're also talking about is where we stand with the IEJ project and whether to continue with what we had discussed previously as being the plan. So I think we've got two different conversations. And obviously, if we don't go forward with the plan as we had been envisioned, then the splitting the DSS may be a moot point.
Well, it would be.
It would be. So are we, if we're, I think I think it's appropriate that we make the decision in regard to whether we're going to go forward like we had intended. And if that's what we're putting off in July because of budget, then I'm okay with that.
That's what we're doing.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're suggesting. So what we're doing is we're putting any conversation about splitting the DSS totally apart until we decide whether we're going to go
Right.
forward with the current plan.
Right.
And if we go forward with the current plan, that's a separate decision whether or not we would include DSS in that move.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's my understanding of where we're at.
I'm slower than everybody else. I
got
just got to
you.
catch up.
I'm with
Okay.
you.
Bo tried to call me today to explain this to me, but I didn't get his phone call. So we'll have to start over.
It's all right. Yeah, so you want to make that as a motion to
I do.
table?
I want to make the motion. Let's table that in July to our work session.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And just to let you know, Reverend Gibson had to leave. His duties as a pastor kicked in, so he had to walk.
And he needs to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, yes. So, all right, moving on. Boards and committees we've already done. So we'll go into the county manager report now.
Okay. One thing, just as a new item, and this is for information only, Scotland County was awarded a $400,000 grant for enhancement of the industrial park that we have behind the EDC building. It's a grant through NC Rail to go off and improve the suitability of that to be a rail service site.
Is that the thing we got today from Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But that is, the EDC applied for it, but it was awarded to the county. Also,
we all get shivers in our spine when we hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know why. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but with this, talking about water, I did meet with Chuck Willis with Willis Engineering last week, talking about water system. Couple of things. First, I asked him to come to the April 26th work session to discuss two things. They worked with the city. They came up with a feasibility study at consolidating the city and the county water systems. And I'll send out a electronic copy of a very thick book on it. But also, they did the assessments on the North Turnpike water extension. So they can go over that and also look at some of the different feasibilities there on what they designed, why, and the variety of systems on exactly how it's there and what are some potential funding sources available, and the type of system that the county wants to extend out there, how robust of a system.
But is this the company that gave the $9 million
Yes.
estimate? I don't know who you want to hear from, but anyway. And I don't, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But I've asked them to come to the April 26th meeting, sit down and have a conversation.
This is the company that
They
$9
are the
million.
engineers that the city of Laurinburg uses for their system.
But they're also the one that was talking about a 10-mile system with a 12-inch pipe.
Yeah, I think they was wanting a little more than what
we
I think they
need.
want to put in a little more than what we're wanting.
And that was one of that's part of the conversation that he and I had last week. You know, they just went off and developed a full municipal system, which is very robust and can easily be expanded, can be expanded for economic development. But if you just want a drinking water system, that's going to be something significantly different. And they were going after the possibility for grant funding for that. And I think he said the grant that we went after, they awarded 30 grants across North Carolina out of 180 applications.
Well, when we indicated what we were doing, did they not understand that we weren't looking for a municipal system? We were looking for
They
connecting.
they extended the design of the system that we currently have. Because going up 501, we have a 12-inch line up to the water tank.
But that's just because of the water tank though. But after that, it's not 12 inch.
Yeah, so if you're
But it doesn't
going
need to
off
be 12
Turnpike, off the backside of Peach Orchard, if you scale that down to just residential,
It'd
that would be a,
Is that a 6, 8 inch line?
that would be a 6-inch line.
I mean, that's going to save a ton. And if you go back through that, connect it there where Deercroft and cut across there, that reduces.
Well, you wouldn't
the
have to.
mileage.
You already have it on Turnpike Road already.
How far?
So you could actually go right up Turnpike Road and go right back into Deercroft and actually connect the two.
But either
loops,
way, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which would give that whole community more water pressure.
Bo, do they have it up at Deer Cross
Hmm.
now?
They have water.
Yeah, they
have
got water at
wells.
Deercroft.
But it
Like I said,
stops.
they run water right up 501, but it's also on Turnpike too, North Turnpike,
It stops right there.
right there at
Harold
James Shaw
Moore's.
Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, where that red fire hydrant is.
Yeah,
That's okay.
That's county.
That's the last, as far as the line goes. down.
But that's where it goes to.
Or does it
You can
turn?
join.
Kevin, and we're hearing from him just what their recommendation is. Is that?
With that, some of that is coming back in with, if the board is interested in doing this, if you want to talk about what can be done, he's a lot more knowledgeable at it than I am. I understand a little bit about water, but I can't advise the board on designing a system.
Yeah, but he knows.
Yeah.
He knows about logistics.
I understand, but
But we'll look forward to hearing from him.
Yeah, I would just have him come prepared with, I want to see it. I don't want
I
to.
think we need to tell him. I think we need to tell him what we want
That's
instead of what he wants.
yeah,
What he wants us to have.
Right. We need to tell him what we want.
Right.
Because that's them engineers. They kind of, they get paid on how much the job is.
Yeah.
So.
And Kevin, can we tell him what we want before he comes here and waste a meeting? Because if he comes here and tell us what he's already told you about the $9 million, we know we're not going for that, and we know we can get it done cheaper. So don't we want to tell him we're looking at another system?
we've already had,
told him.
I've already given him a summary of the work session.
Okay.
So he knows we're looking at something different about the possibility of just how do we extend out a drinking water system in.
And we don't want to just drag this out. We talking about this a year now,
This thing's been going on for 20 years.
20 years. We
It's
need
been
to go
almost a
ahead
year
and
since we had that meeting.
we need to go ahead and do it.
I've heard some of the people up there talk said, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
commissioners come up there and made a promise to give them water.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
So we need to go ahead and
And
Get it
This is
done.
my first time hearing about it.
well,
Back when the water system was originally
But you're a
sold.
commissioner, so it's partially your fault.
Well,
anyway.
I'm just saying they've been promised water for 20 years. I mean,
Yeah, it's time
about
to at
they
least move on.
To the second half of that last sentence, a study of consolidating, is this again talking about giving the county water system to the city?
Yes.
Is anybody up for that? I thought we discussed this 3 or 4 times, but
Well, the advantage to, well,
I know
at
there's
some point in time,
advantages.
if we get LMA to consolidate LMA into it as well, it becomes a lot more practical. At that point in time, you have one provider that can address industrial need.
Yeah, but on the other side of that is also not a system that we're losing any money on. And we still have somewhat control over it right now. And if we go to the city ain't going to build a line up on North Turnpike Road.
Right.
So, I mean,
I don't think we make that. I don't think.
well, I thought we
turned that over
already
yet.
made it a couple of times, but anyway, I would just drop that if that's what he's coming to talk about. Because I don't think I'm not hearing anybody that really wants to talk about that anymore. Unless I'm wrong.
you're right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I will stand corrected. Anything else?
The one last thing, and there is actually, in addition to an invitation and a commercial, but May 6th, Parks and Recreation has had murder mystery dinners several times in the last several years. They had a conflict at the Storytelling Arts Center this time. So they're looking to move it to the Laurel Hill Community Center. But with this, at this event for the last several times, they have served beer and alcohol, beer and wine. And they would need permission from the commissioners to offer beer and wine at this event.
But with that comes the requirement that they have law enforcement there, right? I know it does when we do.
It does at
historic properties, yeah, that ordinance or whatever calls that they have to have, if there's going to be X amount of people, so many officers there during that time.
And if they're selling or giving either one, they may have to get a permit from the state.
Yes.
They still got to get their permit from the state.
They would have to have an ABC permit. They would go through a bar. So they would go through someone to get the permit, get somebody there to bartend. They would, I think they have always had law enforcement at these events. But they can't do any of it without your board, without the board.
I would make the motion, we allow them to do it as long as they conform with the requirements we've had with other venues as far as law enforcement and appropriate ABC permits.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more questions, discussion? And this is just beer and wine, correct?
Just beer and wine.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Is that it?
That is it.
All right, we'll start with news. We'll start on this end. Commissioner Williams.
Enjoyed the district meeting that we had down in Brick and Mortar. Sad to get the news about the passing of our constituents down in Brunswick County. And learned a lot from the state, from the broadband stuff. Look forward to seeing some of that stuff come to fruition here in Powell County.
Mr. Hall.
Don't have anything.
Appreciate everybody being here tonight. I always feel like we're better when y'all are here with us. Thank you very much for all of you for being here. I will say one other thing. I've had, and I don't want to make this a negative, had several inquiries of me report. We commissioners sometimes will talk about the number of phone calls that we get. And occasionally somebody will say, I've just gotten more phone calls about this particular issue than I've ever gotten before. That's not true of what I'm getting ready to say, but it is somewhat true because I got a lot of phone calls in the last maybe 6 weeks about the animal shelter and how it's being run. And I understand that the gentleman who had been hired to take over is no longer there. There were some requests that the county commissioners need to be aware of some of the stuff going on. I related some of that information to both Chairman Ivy as well as the county manager. I'm not sure that all of what's going on out there is resolved, and I don't know what we need to do, but I suggest at some point we may just not in a negative way, we just kind of have some kind of inquiry or conversation with the board as to what's going on and what, if anything, we need to do to help them oversee what they do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, she's gone. But that falls under Ms. Deaver's realm, doesn't it?
Falls under who?
Amanda's Health Department.
Okay.
That falls under the health department.
Yeah.
And she and I have had some conversations about it as well.
But I didn't know he was gone either until you said that tonight. So
Can you give us an update next meeting?
I'll get that.
get her to find out what's going on. You got anything? Yeah, I wanted to kind of echo what Duke said about the dinner. You said no. Do you have anything?
I was fixing to say something.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Thank you. You can go ahead now.
Finish now. Thank you.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Just about that dinner that we had for our regional commissioners association meeting, which was all the way down to New Hanover County and back to here. It was quite a few people there, but one of the ladies that was there from Brunswick, New Hanover County commissioner that sat with BJ and I, and she actually passed away the next day. But anyway, kind of a sudden thing. But anyhow,
Yeah.
but it was a good dinner other than that and in the information. All right, and so if we don't have anything else, we will recess the meeting till April 26th at 9 a.m. at the Morgan Center.
So moved.
Hold on just a second. Leon. Okay.
I'm 80 years old. You guys can talk into that microphone. It sure will.
It doesn't do a lot of good in here because it feeds back. I know that's more for the people watching online than.
I don't think it's got anything to do with you being 80 because I can't hardly hear either. I'm trying my best.
Maybe we'll have it playing on YouTube behind us because it does closed captioning.
Recess until when?
Yes, April 26th.
Originally it was supposed to, this new system was supposed to come through here, and I think it's been turned down. And each commissioner don't have a mic because one of them makes funny noises when you turn it on. And so we've had to turn it off and turn the system down. So it's, yeah, well, I mean, it's more for now for the online, but we can see about getting it.
Mr. Butler, it's a good point. Sir.
It's a good point, but we'll have to get somebody smarter than us to look into that. So even if we had to go out of these speakers in the ceiling and go to something set out here, but we can discuss about that.
Can you hear me now, Leon? Right there.
Yeah, it doesn't do much through the, it's tied into them, but it doesn't do a whole lot. You just want it fixed. All right. So we'll recess to April 26th at the Edwin Morgan Center, right? 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second. We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are standing recess.
What's Mac doing here?